Hey everybody, welcome to Sam's Doing Stuff. What am I doing today? Well, we're gonna find out exactly how fast this Eastonmade Ultra really is. Before we get started, I want to explain my process because your process might be different and it might save you a little bit of time. We are looking for a baseline here. Now, I think it's important to note that when I get done splitting and stacking, it took me over an hour to fill an IBC tote with 34 cubic feet of firewood with my old splitter. So that's what I'm looking at as far as a comparison. And of course, when it's all said and done, we're gonna figure out how long it takes me to make the same amount of wood as I would have made with my old box store splitter. So I stage my rounds. I've got everything cut up here and I stage my rounds on pallets. Then I simply use my Kubota BX with pallet forks and I lift those logs, pallets of logs or rounds onto this other stack of pallets and I stage them right here in front of or next to the Eastonmade Ultra. From that point, I'm gonna split them directly into my dump trailer. That's the way I do things. Also, you'll notice I am using the single wedge. This is the way I do things. I split with the single wedge because I do bundle grade quality wood. You might save a little bit of time if you put the 4-way wedge on and if you're not as picky with your split. So like I said, this is all gonna be a baseline for you. If it takes me, almost 54 years old, to do this in the amount of time it's gonna take me, you might be a little bit faster. All right, I've got the Eastonmade Ultra all topped off with gas. We are ready to go. Now, other than my own limitations from my age and physical capabilities, I think we're set and ready to go. If I run out of rounds before the hour is up, then we'll just extrapolate that out and figure out how many cords per hour it would have been. It should be easy to figure out. But other than that, we're ready to go. Let's get started. There it is. That's the result of 1 hour of splitting with a single wedge on the Eastonmade Ultra, doing bundle grade wood. Now, I'll tell you right off the bat that the slowest thing in this whole process is me. Oh yeah. I don't think I've ever run that splitter straight for an hour before. I know I haven't. And physical limitations. I slowed down at the end. I was huffing. I need to get in better shape. Anyway, so another thing that would absolutely increase speed is a conveyor. If you had a conveyor off the end of any pro level splitter like this Eastonmade Ultra, it's gonna speed you up a bunch because, you know, it kind of bunches up right here and I had to throw a lot of it and, you know, it's not a perfect system. A conveyor would be much quicker. What else? Oh, the scrap. I was throwing the scrap here into this bin and it's not much. You know, that's one thing that the single wedge is really good for, is you don't have that much waste. And I am pretty picky, you know. Anything that's a little gnarly, like, well, this is a lot gnarly, but you get my point. Anything that's gnarly goes to my parents for boiler wood. So I just threw it over here into this bin. So the next thing to do is to go ahead and stack that, and we'll see how much I did. All right, guys. Well, this is somewhat concerning. Yeah. So previously, with the big box store splitter, the County Line 27-ton splitter, I was able to fill a tote, and this is a little bit over a quarter of a cord, so it's 34 cubic feet. I was able to do 34 cubic feet into a tote, and I would stack it as I split it, and it would take me just over an hour, just a little bit over an hour to stack an entire tote. I can't say an hour because maybe it was more like an hour and 15 minutes per quarter cord split and stacked in a tote. So with the Eastonmade Ultra, I split straight for an hour. I did not stop. Just kept going, knocked out as much as I could in an hour, and then we'll see how much I did. Well, this tote full, stacked, plus there were 2 rows left in the bottom of this, so just maybe a 1/16 of a cord, maybe. So a cord and a quarter cord and a 1/16 of a cord. And that took me an hour to split. And then I had to stack it. Now remember, I used to stack while I was splitting because that old splitter is so slow. You know, had like a 20-second cycle time. So you can definitely make a split, and while that thing is going back, you can stack it and then be ready to split your next. And I did the exact same thing with the pallets. I would put logs on, put all my rounds on pallets, and then bring them up with the tractor. Yeah, I don't know. Because, you know, you got to add the stacking time in after that. So it took me 15 minutes to stack all of this. So an hour and 15 minutes to do this little 1/16 over here and then this full basket. With a splitter that is at least 4 times faster than the other splitter. I don't know where I'm losing all the time. I just don't know. I'm confused. I'm perplexed. I'm befuddled. Well, the only way I know to be thoroughly accurate with this and to be 100% sure and comparing the Ultra to the box store splitter is to run the box store splitter for an hour. I've got the exact same rounds, the exact same scenario, bringing the rounds in on the pallets with the tractor, setting them here, splitting them. Now I will be stacking directly into the tote like I always do with this splitter because it's so slow, it makes sense to put those splits directly into the basket. So it's gonna take me an hour, it's gonna take you about 60 seconds. I am fresh, this is another day. I'm not tired. The splitter is full of gas. Let's knock it out and see what happens. I ran this for 1 hour and 15 minutes. Now there's a reason I ran it for 1 hour and 15 minutes because I ended up with a stacked basket of firewood. And when I split with the Ultra and then I stacked it out of the dump trailer, I put a total of 1 hour and 15 minutes into splitting and stacking. So to compare apples to apples on split and stacked, I had to run this for a full 1 hour and 15 minutes because I was stacking as I was splitting. I hope that makes sense to you. Anyway, let's look at the result. All right, so what do we end up with here? Well, we know already that the Ultra split a full basket, which is 34 cubic feet. I've already figured that out. Plus another 1 foot high, and these baskets are 45 inches wide by 16 inches deep. That's 5 cubic feet, so 39 cubic feet. Well, it just so happens that the county line split exactly 1 foot short of a full basket, which is exactly another 5 cubic feet. So the grand scheme of things, in 1 hour and 15 minutes, split and stacked, small splits, bundle style wood, throwing away anything that is ugly and not worth keeping. The Ultra does 10 cubic feet more. That's right, 10 cubic feet more in 1 hour and 15 minutes than the county line. Now, there are some things to consider here. When you get a clean split, doesn't matter how slow your splitter is. If you get a nice clean split when that wedge hits the wood, you don't run the piston all the way out and all the way back. You run it out until you get the clean split, and then you start over. So you're not taking a 20-second cycle time every single time you run a slow splitter. You do take a full cycle every time you split your first split, something big or something that gets stringy, you know? So it's definitely slower. There's another way you can measure how much each splitter split by how many pallets they went through. So these bottom 3 plus this one, there are 4 pallets worth that the Eastonmade Ultra went through. And I've got 2 pallets here on top, plus about 2/3 of a pallet right here. And that was it. So 2 2/3 a pallet versus 4 full pallets. You know, measure it any way you want. There's also ergonomics to consider. There's something about when the wood comes off the end of the splitter, when you've got a push plate pushing it through a wedge and then off the end of the splitter, you're not picking every piece up. With a box store splitter where the wedge goes through the piece, every single time you split something, you have to pick that piece up and do something with it. And that wears you out. Believe me, I felt a lot more tired running the county line than I did running the Ultra. Yeah, it answers some questions. It definitely did. I can see ways of making the Ultra even faster, because it's not the Ultra that slows you down. It's the user, you know, and it's the way you're using it. Certainly the 4-way wedge, a conveyor, or somewhere to, you know, spit the splits a little bit, you know, just offload the splits better than the dump trailer. Yeah, there's certainly ways to improve it. I have perfected running that county line splitter. I have run that, just hundreds and hundreds of cords through that, and I can run it just as fast as it can be run. And that's all you can do right here in 1 hour and 15 minutes. So I hope we all learned something from this. I know I've got to go back to the drawing board and maybe try and do something to speed up my process a little better. You guys are always helpful with that. So if you feel like saying something, do it in the comments. Goodness gracious. What is that? Right in my face. Dang. You guys are always helpful with that. So if you feel like saying something, do it in the comments. Oh. Go ahead and leave in the comments. And I'll see you next time when I'm doing more stuff.